concept. You have a great concept. You guys are doing it, man, and it's an honor for me to just be, you know, a small rock, man, in your mountain. I'm gonna pop a top in your honor.
Mr. Doc Walker blessed us with his presence and knowledge.
We want to welcome in our next special guest, Haley Skarupa. She's a three-time world champion in women's ice hockey and most recently won Olympic gold with Team USA.
The Cap Stadium Series is definitely my favorite, obviously. I'm a huge Caps fan. I always have been. And to be there at that game with my teammates and for us to bring, you know, our gold medals to there and share it with everyone in this area was really, really special for me. And just the support and it's been tremendous from everyone in this area, and you could feel that there at that game.
Welcome to Sports on the Hill podcast. Hashtag DC Sports Without the Politics with Carol and Robbie on TRU Radio Network.
Beats by CP3. Many can copy us, but none can duplicate us. Beats by CP3.
That's right. It's Monday night. Sports on the Hill podcast, TRU Radio Network, coming to you live from the lab. CP3. We got Robbie G in the man cave. We got another great show, another full show that we're going to try to keep within 2 hours this time because we've just been going 2.5, 3, almost 3 hours sometimes. And there's only a few sports going on. Just imagine if everything was really going on, Robbie. But how you doing tonight, good sir? It's a crazy Monday, and I'll get into my day a little bit later on. How are you doing today, good sir?
I'm doing good. Last week we did it 2 hours exactly, so I was pretty impressed by that. So, you know, I think it'll be maybe a little less tonight. Just depends on how many people want to talk football with us, I guess, and how long we want to break down that game. So that'll obviously be an important part of how long we go for tonight. But it was a interesting Super Bowl last night. I know a lot of people dragged on it and said it was like the worst Super Bowl ever. It wasn't the high-scoring, crazy affair that some had expected. I will from the start say I was the only one on this show that was taking Tampa Bay and believing in their defense. And that's what, you know, Tom Brady will get all the accolades, he'll get the MVP and all that, but we all know what their defense is able to do to Mahomes, you know, was the difference in that game. So it'll be fun to break that down in the second hour. We've got, unfortunately, a less fun, you know, first hour. We got to break down a lot of losses. You know,
man, it's part of the game, man. We can't always have wins all the time. It's part of the game, but at least
the Wizards are winning right now. They're winning 52-46 over the Chicago Bulls. So we got a live Wizards game to break down with the roundtable in a little bit. But yeah, it's gonna be a rough one. In a few minutes, we're gonna bring in Anna, and we're gonna talk about that. But before we bring Anna in, I do want to talk about the good part of the week, which was the news of the Washington football team. So Carol, let people know what happened this weekend with some end of season awards.
Yeah, it's been a crazy year in the NFL. It's over now. You know, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are the champions of the league for the next year. And Washington football team has the defensive rookie of the year on their squad. And if you recall, at the beginning of the season, there was some folks saying that he was a bust and all this and all that. And we on the show kept on saying, give it time. It's early. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. He was getting double teamed, sometimes triple teamed, just to keep him out of the game until other players started stepping up and they had to go head up, which the defense we saw improve, which is about the whole unit, not just one person. But he was able to shine when things got rougher in the year. Most times a rookie will hit that wall around game 12 or 13, but we saw deeper in the season it went, the better he played. So he deserved that honor. And then we also have to mention, I have to eat my words, which I've did already about Alex Smith, who I felt would never play again in the NFL, and he won comeback player of the year. I mean, we all pretty much knew once he took the
We
field.
said once he took snap one, he might win it, and
Yeah.
he went on and led us to a division title. I mean, that's just remarkable.
I mean, the fact that he got back on the field and was able to perform like he did, and we saw that first game, I was dreading it. We saw Aaron Donald jump on his back, and nothing happened. I was shocked. I was sitting there with my mouth open. But the fact that he was able to come back and be effective and lead a team to the division title, I mean, that says it all in itself. But that's very impressive. Going forward, we're going to talk off season later on, but I'm hearing that he wants to continue to play. He has a very high cap number, and Dujan and myself broke down at the end of the season that leg is not going to allow him to start 16 games. We saw that when he got in there and started, just the wear and tear, all the surgeries. I mean, not due to injury, but he's going to get fatigued no matter how much he trains and hits the weights and all of that stuff. His body went through a traumatic injury and it's not going to perform the same. It's going to have side effects. So, but I don't want to get too deep into that because we're going to talk about that in the later in the off season when Dujan and myself and Robbie G probably break down some of the off season stuff. But let's go ahead and get some more news and notes, Robbie, before we head into hockey, unless you're ready to head into hockey already.
Yeah, I mean, the other news and notes actually related to hockey, we'll break it down a little bit more in the upcoming schedule, but half the games for the Capitals this week have now been postponed. So we were going to break down 4 games, or preview 4 games, and instead we will be previewing 2 games. The Buffalo Sabres are still in a pause. You know, they're in COVID protocol. A lot of players either come down with it or, you know, symptoms, and it's a mess over there for their team. And one thing that's interesting is all the U.S. divisions, you know, there's 3 U.S. divisions, the West, Central, and East. They've all had stoppages, and 23 out of the 24 American teams have had some COVID-related instance where either a player's had to sit out a game or something. And the Canadian division seems to be doing a lot better. And so I don't necessarily know why that is. They're the same protocols, supposedly, for the whole team. But I don't know if that means the Canadian teams are following it better or if just, you know, local guidelines are better so they're not catching it from outside people or what the deal is. But I thought it was really interesting. There's been no stoppage in the North Division whatsoever. And only, I think, 3 teams even had, like, single COVID instances, you know, so compared to, like, 23 or 24. So I don't necessarily have data on why that is, but I thought it was an interesting statistic that I picked up this week. And 2 other games that were supposed to be in March and one in April, I believe, were moved into this month. So March 1st game was moved forward or back one day to the 28th, and then another game was scheduled next week on the 18th. Which I think was also against Buffalo. So that game may also once again be postponed. It'll be interesting to see if the NHL tries to schedule something else this week for the Capitals, or if we're going to go from Tuesday to Sunday without a game. There's some talk, our good friend Bernie brought up a great point, that the opponent for Philadelphia is also in break. So maybe they can move one of the Philly-Washington games from later in the season up to this week, and that would alleviate some congestion later in the schedule for both teams. So that way when they have to reschedule some of these other games, there's not as many back-to-backs, which I think would make a lot of sense, right? We've already seen some of that in the league, games being moved forward and backwards. I don't know if they could reschedule a game with Philadelphia so soon to do something on like Thursday of this week. But I mean, Philly's not that far away from DC, and both teams were planning to play a game this week anyway, so I think it's possible.
I mean, it's possible, but I wouldn't have a problem with the Caps being off from Tuesday to Sunday because hopefully that can give them some time to, you know, fix some of the defensive issues that they're having. Because obviously,
and get some injured players back and maybe off of COVID protocol too.
So I mean, it might not be a bad thing for them, especially at this point in the season. You know, if it was later, then I'd be like, yeah, I'd be concerned. But with where it is right now, I really wouldn't mind, you know, them getting that. And hopefully, you know, the coach can get them in a better mind state instead of, you know, losing these leads. We're going to definitely talk about that when we get into Capitals talk.
Right. So we'll break it down more than in just a second, but it'll be interesting to see if the long break would be good or bad. And one thing I just don't know the rules on. I thought that if you're in COVID protocol, you miss 4 games, but I wonder if those games get suspended, if that's like a certain amount of time. For example, Verana is out now, right? So if he was going to originally miss 4 games, that was this week, and then he could come back next week. Does this mean that he's got to miss more games next week? Even if like the amount of time would have passed, I don't know the answer to this.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
So I wouldn't like it to have to go further for him because then it's longer for his legs to get acclimated again. So that could be problematic in some ways. So maybe it's better to have a game. But I agree with you. We need to get healthy at the right time. All right. Well, let's. That's all the main news and notes that I've got for today. I do have the battle for New York up. Between the Island and the Rangers. Right now, the Islanders are up 1-0 over the Rangers. We're going to bring Brian Brennan in to talk during our Rangers segment in a little bit. We'll break that game down first, and then we'll bring him in as well. We're bringing in Anna now, and I'm going to show it to a couple of different Caps groups. Anna, how are you doing? And I think you're recording this upcoming week, right? You pushed it up. I think you're muted still. There you go.
There we go.
The show isn't a show until somebody doesn't unmute themselves.
This time it wasn't me, so yeah.
That's true. I will take the blame. No, I'm doing great. It was a fun sports weekend, but I will say a little disappointing to start off with the Caps. Then I watched the PGA, which I know Carol could care less about, but that was kind of exciting. And then, of course, the Super Bowl. So, yes, we are actually going to record tomorrow before that bump up with the Flyers game.
Are you going to get it in before the start? It's a 6 o'clock start. I want to make sure everyone knows that game was 7 o'clock last week. And talk about schedule changes. That game got moved to 6. So, get it done early for that.
We're going to try. I'm done teaching around 3:40. And I think y'all's usually off on Tuesdays. So last time we did it right at 4. So I was just all right, let's just keep it rolling because I've been talking all day. I've been on the computer all day. Let's just keep going, or else once I log off, I'm kind of done for the night. But yeah, so we'll see how that goes, and hopefully be able to squeeze it in. And I think he's done an awesome job of getting the shows out a lot faster than before. And I don't know, maybe it's because I'm watching the language just a little bit.
Quick scoring update on the Battle of New York. The Islanders just scored with 6:40 left in the third to make it 2-0. It was a nice play into the zone, threw it in front of the net, and the man was there. Who was that? Martin. God damn Martin. I can't stand Martin. He was crashing the net, and the Ranger defenders were behind him, and he had a clear deflection right into the net. I can't stand Martin. Damn it. All right, back to the Capitals.
All right, so real quickly, we don't need to break it down too much, the game from last Monday, because we were on air and you could watch our face. And so if anybody wants to see a live recap of what it looks like to watch Caps fans watch a team collapse, check out last week's podcast,
A couple of F-bombs got dropped by accident.
And you can even see funny mullet references. I added some stats and some funny additional edits into that. So if you want to play it back. I definitely encourage people to go back and do that. But just remind people, just in scoring real fast, we were up by what, and then how did we fall apart?
Absolutely. So first period, everyone celebrated a Chara and Sprong score. So it was 2-0. It was fantastic. Second period, 8:35, Carlson scores. And then here we go with Pasternak, who scores at 12:37, even though the Caps were up 3-1 at this point. Going into the third, Pasta scores at 6:08, Smith at 13:07, Carlo at 17:23, Marchand at 18:34 with a 3-5 loss for the Capitals, which just absolutely fell apart in that third period. and it sucked.
That game, I'm upset about the whole week, but that game still, we was watching it, and unfortunately, I dropped a couple of F-bombs on the air because I saw some stuff that shouldn't have happened. But yeah, that game was kind of like foreshadowing for the rest of the week, I feel, because they had a lead, they were, had things covered, and then it just all, like you said, it all fell apart. Off his lack of discipline, lack of following the system, we know it was lack of defense because some of those scores was just ridiculous. So I don't know. That's why I said I wouldn't mind him having a few days off to get some drills and get some practice in and learn how to stay disciplined, control their gaps, and not give up these leads that they've been getting, and then go cold.
For sure. I don't think we need to break this game down anymore. Again, we recapped it. We had Gil's take and all that. So let's move on. I'm going to get your scoring take first on what happened in this Rangers game. We'll give each of our takes, and then we're going to bring Brian in after that to get
which I'm sure he's super excited.
Right. I'm sure he's a little bummed right now being down 2-0 to the Islanders. So I'm sure there'll be tempered excitement.
Yeah.
So, exactly. So all right, let's break down the scoring in that game.
Okay, so Rangers score first, and they only goal with a tip-in at 1:41. Second period has the Rangers scoring at 9:15, and then at 18:57, Carl Hagelin gets his first goal of the season, assisted by Hathaway and Scarbosa. Man, did he ever need that? Because I think, wasn't it like the game before he scored and they took it away? It didn't count, so good on Hags. Third period, Rangers score at 7:55, and about 3 minutes later, Ovechkin scores his third. There you go, fixing the jersey just in time. Assisted by Backstrom. But then we go, unfortunately, New York scores with an empty netter, and we have a 2-4 loss. I will say, as frustrating this game was, what really killed me was penalty minutes. And so we have New York with 13, and we have the Capitals with 17, which I just think was, uncalled for. Those impulse moves, and as I feel like I'm on this teeter with Nick Dowd. It's like I think he's doing so great, and that line is so tight, and he knows what to do. And then he's in the penalty box, and then he redeems himself, and he's in the penalty box, and I'm like, come on, guy. I need you to be a little bit more consistent out of the box. So that was my big frustration with this game, was those penalty minutes were just uncalled for.
Well, right. I definitely agree with the penalty minutes, but it's not just on Dowd. A lot of players, I've seen TJ Oshie take a couple of dumb penalties in this last week or so, and that comes from frustration. Either it's from them not following what they're supposed to do, or the system isn't working the way it's supposed to. I don't know what it is, but when you have those penalties and, allowing other teams more and more chances to get back in the game when you built the lead, that's just playing hockey backwards. It just doesn't make sense to do that when you build a lead and then keep on giving the team opportunities to come back to try to, overtake the game, especially when it's a momentum game. So it's frustrating. My thing with the Rangers game, when we spoke about it the week before, previewing it, like I said, you can't sleep on any team, even though they were in the bottom of the division. They gave the Capitals a business that night. They outplayed them, they out-hustled them, and they just beat them. And like we said in football, any given Sunday, but in hockey, any given night, you can get beat by any team if you're not out there ready to play and do what needs to be done. And I think that's what we saw this week. That I don't know if it was what they weren't prepared or they didn't, I don't know what it was. It just looked like some bad hockey. That didn't look like no Capitals hockey to me.
I agree.
Yeah, obviously the highlight is Ovechkin getting his third goal, in the sense that it broke the tie, right? So I think he was tied at that point with Gardner. And he's been playing pretty well. We'll talk about it a little bit more in the next game, but I have not been impressed by Orlov's return. I think missing Schultz in these games has been...
Wait, can we hear that again?
I know, yes. I who have been Orlov's...
I had to read that message twice, Anna, when he typed it the other when we was talking. I was like, Robbie just throw Orlov under the bus?
Well, Carol, we'll have this debate a little bit more in a second with the next game, but Carroll thinks there's potentially a system problem, and I think there's a defense problem and personnel problem, and I don't think it's the system's fault. Because I thought that we played better without Orloff defensively with Schultz in. And that tells me that the system can work if the players are playing well within the system. So I think ever since that break really screwed up Orloff. I thought Orloff was playing okay this season before the COVID break for him. And I think he lost his legs and he's still trying to find himself. And I'm not saying – a lot of people are like saying trade him, and I'm not sure that's the answer. I think this year, more than any year, so many injuries and so many things are going to happen. So you're going to need as many bodies as you can have. So Orloff was part of that 2018 team. He's got that, championship caliber, the thing that you want. He played very well in that 2018. I don't necessarily need him to play amazing right now. I need him to play amazing at the end of the season and, in the playoffs. But I think if we're going to accurately assess, this team, the defense is laying, and Carlson hasn't been playing particularly great defense either. And we spend a lot more money on Carlson than we even do on Orloff. But those two guys are expensive, and they need to show up. And,
I think Carlson was showing up in the beginning. I think that there was –
These last two games, though, I think both of them had some major defensive lapses.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I think it's funny. Well, it's not funny, but it's an interesting topic that on Power Play Facebook page, people talking about the vibe of the Capitals when the Russians were not there, and how the team rallied and how they had a positive vibe and how everything just seemed to really click, and they looked like they thoroughly enjoyed playing hockey at that time. I didn't think it was fair to put Ovechkin in that situation because he obviously came in very strong and has done well. But there is something off now, and I don't know if it's because the players just want the consistency of being paired up, in the lines and have that consistency, or what's going on. But yeah, I feel like Carlson started off fantastic and then kind of, and then Orloff just.
I can't agree with that statement. We saw,
No?
I mean, to a degree, but we saw under Trotz on the championship run with some of these same players when they had to move different places in the lineup or go to different lines, they were still effective. They know how to be effective. That's why I'm more concerned of the losing leads, because that's been happening all season. Even though they were forcing overtime and getting a point, and they got off to the best point streak of their the franchise, those deficiencies were there from the beginning. And I spoke on that a couple of weeks ago, and I said, if we see this as a trend that continues, it's something that we need to discuss, because I can understand in the beginning, and then you see it changing, but we've seen this throughout the whole season from this squad. Even when the Russians were out, we still saw them giving up leads.
I think less so. I mean, to me, in that 2018 run, sure, we had some injuries, and sure, there was some adversity, and there was some line changes.
But not like this.
It did not seem like this. I mean, each line is so drastically different from the game before. We're lucky to have one line the same game to game out of the four. Before, maybe there was tweaks between two lines, but like when you're wiping the slate clean every time they're throwing them out there, the chemistry can't get set. And I don't think we could accurately tell if it's a system-wide issue until they get some sort of chemistry on the lines. For me, it's like there's too many unknowns. There's too many people playing in spots that may be AHL players. I mean, it's just the lineup that I'm looking at right now for the next game, which we'll break down in a little bit, is so drastically different than the last game, which was so drastically different than the game before. But taking a look at this game real fast, TJ Oshie was a -3. You've got Carlson was a -2. Actually, and looking through the stats, Orloff wasn't bad. He was a 0, right? Ovechkin was also a 0 ±. So that they were on for goals for and goals against, but they weren't the biggest problem in this game. I just thought that, as Carol alluded to earlier, I thought that the Rangers outworked them in this game. But
I
actually,
agree with that.
I think that this is a good opportunity. Let's bring Brian in. I'd like to get the other team's perspective in this one, and then we can break down more of the Capitals' woes in the next game.
How's it going, guys?
Hi, Brian.
Damn you and your Rangers, Brian.
Yeah. I like that you're wearing blue, so it's very fitting.
It's a Hartford Whalers shirt I'm wearing.
Oh,
So it's
Oh,
keeping with
he's
the hockey
going old.
theme.
The Hartford Whalers are barely are older than you, Brian. What you know about the Hartford Whalers?
Hey,
Didn't they
man,
move
I
before
grew
you
up
were
in Connecticut.
born?
I've got love for the Whalers. I've got love for the Whalers.
nice. I like that. All right, so I know that your game isn't going particularly well right now.
No, it is not.
Yeah, it just
But-
ended, unfortunately, a 2-0
Yeah.
loss for the Rangers.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, let's talk about this game. What were some of you thought it was a pretty good game, at least in our group chat. What sort of things did you take away, both from the Rangers' perspective, but also of the Capitals from an outsider's perspective?
I agree that there seems to be a lot of confusion with the Capitals, like the lines and everything. You were talking about how there seems to be some confusion with their defense and like how many players they're using. So there might be some struggles, I guess, now for the Caps, and it's showing in these last 3 games. But from a Rangers fan perspective, I absolutely loved this win. I thought, the chemistry was really on point from the team. I was really happy for Anthony Bitetto. He scored his first Rangers goal, only the 3rd goal of his career. That was really awesome. And it was a beautiful goal, too, in the second period. I thought that was really wonderful. I was happy for him. And also the passing on Strome's second goal that made it 3-1 Rangers. Strome to Panarin, back to Strome. Was absolutely beautiful. I think the chemistry on the Rangers has been absolutely great these last couple of games. They've been playing better hockey. Even tonight, going into the 3rd period, they were playing really well against the Islanders. It just unfortunately fell apart. The Islanders are, I think, a better team than the Rangers still. So, and plus, like Carol was saying, any given night, anything can happen. But yeah, I was really happy. I was really happy the Rangers won this game against the Caps. I'm sorry, guys.
No, it's fine. You don't ever be upset.
The damn bread man.
It's just a problem I have. I apologize for everything. But
You're now apologizing for apologizing. There you
yeah,
go.
exactly. But I was very, very happy with Rangers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
So-
was an ugly game for the Capitals.
Right.
Definitely, yeah.
So I don't know. Did you watch any of the Super Bowl game, the pre-game one, or did you not watch any
The
of that?
Flyers game, yeah, I
Yeah.
actually watched a little bit of that, yeah.
So
Until the Knicks game started, I watched it, yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you have any just general thoughts on, do you think there was, I thought that the Capitals played well at times, especially early on when you were
Yeah.
watching probably.
Ovechkin looked good. Ovechkin
Yeah.
had 4 points, right? He had 2 goals, 2 assists, right? That's pretty
Yeah,
good.
and there were some sick passes too. And
Yeah.
we'll definitely in a minute break down all of them. But overall, I thought that they seemed to be playing well, but they just can't seem to put it together for 60 minutes. It's just the defensive lapses seem to come late in the games, and it's just, we've seen, last week where they had a horrible first period, but then a fine second and third, and then there's times where we have a good first and second. We just can't seem to put 3 good periods together consistently. And it's just been interesting for sure. Well, Brian, I appreciate it. We'll bring you back in for Wizards talk in a few minutes, but I just wanted to get a little bit of a Rangers perspective and an outsider's perspective for some of that. And we'll also talk a little bit of Super Bowl in the second hour as well. I'm sure you
Sounds
have
good.
plenty of thoughts on that.
Definitely.
All right, we'll talk to you in a little bit.
Sounds good. So see you guys later.
All right.
All right. So let's, Anna, why don't you break down the scoring in this Super Bowl Sunday matinee?
Yeah. So yesterday we had the Flyers Caps playing at noon. First period has the captain scoring his 4th with a power play goal at 11:11, assisted by Wilson and Eller. A little more than 5 minutes later, Tom Wilson scores his 5th, assisted by Backstrom, which happened to be his 10th assist, and Ovechkin with his 6th. That top line, I swear, that doesn't need to change. And then the Flyers closed out the first to make it 2-1. Second period, Lawton scores at 2:29 to tie it up, and then Ovechkin scores 90 seconds later, assisted by Backstrom and Wilson. At 7:50, Hack scores for the Flyers, followed by the Van Riemsdyk at 16:36, not ours, the other team's. And Backstrom scores his sixth at 19:03, assisted by Ovi and Wilson. I don't know. Again, I'm just going to repeat myself. That top line is fantastic and does not need to be changed. Third period, all Flyers. Lawton gets his hat trick, and then here we go with, I don't even want to say his name because he scored twice. He came back. 7-4 loss. It was man, this is an incredibly frustrating game, and I think it shouldn't be because it is a fast hockey. It is, it's just that nonstop. It's aggressive. It's, they're going to go out there, and you want to say each team is giving it 100%. The Flyers gave their 100%, and I think the Caps gave about 60.
Right. I mean, a lot of defensive lapses, and there was also some poor goaltending. So let's break down the poor goaltending first, because I have a question for Carol about that. So we had talked last week we wanted to split the starts for these guys because we were getting a little worried that the workload was starting to get a bit much. It's not saying that Double V can't handle the every night load. He did in Hershey to some extent, although they did have a platoon of goalies down there. It wasn't like he played every single night. And, he's been great, but there's no way, no goalie in the NHL will be hot forever, right? He already was breaking records and, tying franchise records and points to all that. Eventually, you have a loss. Like, no player wins all their games their rookie year, right? So, Carol, do you think that Double V should have gotten one of these starts? Or should have given up one of these starts? Or did you like the call to go back to him after the Rangers game?
That's what I, said the week before, that I think they should split the starts between him and Anderson and get Anderson in there to see what he can do from the start of a game, not being thrown in there, when the tide is turned and the momentum had already shifted. So I still stick with that. I think they should have started Anderson one of those games.
Right, and so unfortunately, Double V gave up 4 goals against on 14 shots. I mean, I thought they did a great job with shot suppression, the Capitals that is, in this game, better than they had in the 2 previous games in a lot of ways.
Well, can we just talk, when you're saying that, 2 of those 2 goals, Nick Jensen, fantastic.
Yeah.
That was one of the only times I will ever say that I thought Nick Jensen stepped up, blocked 2 shots. I mean, he was exactly where he needed to be, and I hope that continues because I certainly haven't been impressed with him.
Right, and so it just wasn't Double V's night, and I wonder if they waited too long to pull him. I just think that when the game got 3-3, maybe you do it, but I understand their hesitancy with that. It's easy to look back on it, but Craig Anderson didn't do any better, right? I mean, he's 75%. I mean, he had 2 goals against on 8 shots, but that's still not great either. And, at that point, Nicholas Backstrom did all that work to tie that game up. And so those 2 goals, and pretty much, I understand that he came in the second period, but he kind of came in with a fresh start in the sense of, like, the period was starting new, third period. It's not the same thing as starting the game, so I understand what Carol's saying. But at the same time, if Anderson's trying to prove that he deserves a spot on this team, he needs to show up on this stage and prove that he could do that. I didn't think I thought some of those goals that allowed were soft in some regards. But Carol,
it was that Philly game was frustrating to watch because, like I said, they started off so well. And then you saw the tide turn, and it's like they did nothing to try to curb the momentum. I mean, Ovi had a highlight reel assist and a power play goal from the left side like he normally does, and he had a good game, but the whole team didn't, and we continued to, like you say, not see a full 60 minutes. Start out so well and then fall off, or they start out slow and then turn it up. You can't do that, especially in this short season, and you're playing these teams on a constant basis now, so it's no long layover of not seeing somebody. You're seeing them twice in 3 days or 4 days most times, and then you turn around and see them again. So they're going to do those same things that they did when you were laxing throughout the game and wait for you to start laxing and then take advantage, which we saw with the Flyers and we saw with the Rangers and we saw with Boston all this week.
Right. I think the mental edge becomes so key. I think that there was a time where Capitals dominated divisions. Now the Southeast Division is not as hard as this current East Division, so I don't want to make any bones about it. It was a lot easier to dominate that division back then than it is today. I mean, of these 8 teams, I believe 6 of them made the playoffs last year. So it's not, it's a rough division. One thing our good friend Chris Levesque posted on the Power Play podcast page. He said Ovechkin recorded 4 points, 2 goals, 2 assists against Philadelphia, making it his 29th career game with at least 4 points. Ovechkin now has 12 points, 5 goals, and 7 assists in his last 8 games this season, and 7 points, 4 goals, and 3 assists in his last 4 games. So he's come back from the COVID thing.
Yeah.
On fire. I mean, he's
absolutely.
I mean, is there ever any doubt?
No, never any doubt. But it's still, I mean, even though he's incredible, even though it shouldn't surprise us any time that it happens, it should still be mentioned that that's not an easy feat to come back. And I mean, because Orlov was complaining that his legs weren't there and all that sort of stuff, and Ovechkin didn't have that opportunity.
The Russian machine never breaks, Robbie.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, incredible stuff though. I want to, it was a disappointing loss, but I don't think it should overshadow some of these incredible performances. I've gotten to go to a couple of these 4-point games in my life, watching him as a fan, and it's incredible to see. And it's a shame that there weren't fans in the stands to see something like that, because I kind of feel if we had gotten fans and Nicholas Backstrom had gotten us back into that game when we were down, and they had the fans to push them through the third period, it could have been a different game. I'm not saying it would have been, but definitely the fan support is missing in these high energy, high intensity games, especially when you're at home. Like, there isn't really much of a home ice advantage, and so I think that's obviously disappointing. But we're going to see this team again very shortly, and I really appreciate everybody for chiming in on the Facebook Live. One of the questions that was brought up by Tony was said that do we think Oshie is going to play tomorrow? And then he says that he also agrees that they got to play the 60 minutes, which I agree. So we don't necessarily know. They don't necessarily tip their hat this early. I know it's not that early at the game tomorrow, but you probably won't know until we see morning skate tomorrow if he's going to have a chance to play. But the lines at practice today, right? So that's the information we have. We've got Ovi, Nick, and Wilson on the top line, which they've been very effective. So I understand. Yeah, we don't need to change that. Hagelin, Dowd, and Hathaway move up to become our second line, which is interesting.
Wow.
And they've been actually, I think, one of our most consistent lines through the last 3 games. And so I like the fact that coach is giving them a promotion. They started pretty much on the 4th line, and they moved all the way up to the second line because they're working hard. I think the coach is trying to reward some of that. We got Sherry, Eller, Carr as the 3rd line, Panic, Kuzi, and Sprong, which means that Kuzi is allowed to practice, which is a good sign because it must mean that he's off the COVID exemption list, or they wouldn't allow him to practice. So, so hopefully, and maybe that's a way to kind of work him into the game because he's been out for a long time. It's gonna be tough to throw Kuzi up on the top 2 lines right away. We saw what happened to Orlov, and Kuzi's no Ovechkin, right? So, and so we got Chara, Carlson, top line, Dylan, Trevor Van Riemsdyk as the second one, and Orlov Jensen as our 3rd pairing, and Siegenthaler Schultz is on the 4th pairing. But remember, Schultz is trying to get himself back into, being able to play again. Had the full mask and all that.
It's like one of those things where once you see that, it's bad. And I think you had mentioned Chris Levesque before, and I think he had said that multiple teeth lost and fractured, like a fractured jaw or something.
Yeah, so here's the quote. Schultz must have had a jaw or tooth deal a bit more severe than we thought. And Chris says he lost multiple teeth and had fractures. So, I mean, I got to say, this shows the resolve of a right? I mean, if a football player was missing teeth and had fractures in their face, I don't know if they're playing. right?
Football, soccer, basketball, they're out.
Yeah, well, soccer and basketball definitely out.
Yeah.
Football, maybe, but like, it amazes me. Carol, what is your reaction to hearing that?
I mean, we all know hockey players. Hockey players are tough. They lose teeth. They get hit with the puck, get hit with the stick. They love the game and they're passionate about it. There have been some football players that have played with a broken jaw before. It's really doesn't happen in football that often, but there have been a couple of players that have sustained a broken jaw that did.
Shattered by a puck.
Yeah,
Like, I just
he
can't.
took that joint straight. Yeah, he took it straight in the face. That joint was painful. I could see it just watching that, so I knew. But the fact that he went off on his own power and like it was nothing, that just tells you, he just skated off like, all right, let me go get some repairs. I'll be back.
Right. And so he's got a full face shield going on, here.
Hey, remember, didn't it happen to Char, didn't it?
Bubble or a huge, I'd just be like, don't touch, don't look at it, because I'd be petrified that it would happen again. Oh my God, hockey players are such badasses.
Yeah. So anyway, those are the lines as we currently see them. We don't know if Oshie will slate in. It wasn't a good sign that he didn't practice today. I wouldn't, especially if they're going to be out and they're not going to play another game this week, and they could give him some more time to rest. I wouldn't be surprised if he sits out this next game too. But I mean, these lines are so drastically different than even what we saw yesterday.
I was concerned though. I don't know if either one of you saw. So they were like hyping up the bromance between Oshie and Brana recently in like an interview, and I don't even remember where I saw it. And then it was like the next day I saw Brana's on the COVID.
But from my understanding, Oshie isn't. So I'm not,
I know that he has an injury, but I thought, oh my God, like I hope like we didn't just put him at risk, possibly being exposed to it because of Ron. But who knows? It's like these days, to have those guys out, we know it has to be next man up, and
yeah, it's gonna be a tough, interesting week. So there's gonna be one more game, but I just wanted to kind of let people know where the standings were before we get to that, because so Boston and Philly are tied with 18 points at the top of the division. Boston's played 2 less games than Philly. Boston's played 13. Boston's played 11. Philly's played 13, and Washington has played 12, and they only have 15 points right now. So. The Islanders are creeping up very quickly, though. They have 12 points, and Pittsburgh's got 11. It's all very, very close. And then the 3 teams at the bottom all have 10 points. So it's not like anyone's 5 points is, 3 wins, right? Yeah. So, it's all very, very close. So we were supposed to originally play 2 games against Buffalo. We mentioned this at the top of the podcast. They are on a COVID pause, so they won't be playing us. So that means that we skip all the way till Sunday, assuming a game doesn't get added to the schedule, like Bernie's thought that it should, which I think could make some sense. Yeah, but we'll see. It's going to be on Valentine's Day, on Sunday, a 3 o'clock matinee game with our love of, team of the Pittsburgh Penguins. So here's an interesting stat I didn't realize, Carol. We're going to play the Pittsburgh Penguins 4 times in Pittsburgh before they ever play in Washington.
Well, that's cool, Nothing like I said, I like when they're on the road because they simplify their game, and that's when the crowd, sort of the crowd noise. But sometimes it's the like you say, the mental aspect of it, going on the road, treating it like a business trip, like they did under Trotz, and hopefully, they might need that because this was the longest homestand of the season, and towards the end of it, they didn't look too good, so. Maybe going on the road to help things along with them, getting better defensively and simplifying their game and trying to find their game for 60 minutes.
Right. So some interesting things just about the Penguins schedule, coming into it. So so far in the month of February, they've only had 2 games. Both have been losses. One at the Rangers. So I'm sure that makes Brian happy. On February 1st, last Monday, we talked about it. And then on Saturday, they played the Islanders and lost to the Islanders. Meanwhile, they were supposed to have 3 games against Jersey, who's also on pause, on Tuesday, Thursday, and tomorrow. They're supposed to have another game, so my understanding is that will get canceled. They'll probably play the one at the Islanders on Thursday, so they will have a game this week. and then they'll play the next two against Washington on Sunday and Tuesday. But they've had this sort of crazy schedule with games being shuffled around too. So it'll be interesting to see how they come off of a game versus the Islanders at the Island on Thursday. And then they have less of a rest than we do, and I don't know. Sometimes that works to your advantage, sometimes it doesn't. Carol, what are some of your thoughts on that?
They just, like I said, they just got to get back to playing Capitals hockey. Figure out what that is with the new system, with the new coach, and start doing it consistently. I mean, it's not even a matter of who they're playing against. It's about them playing for themselves and playing the right way, which they haven't been doing. So it all just comes down to simplify the game, do your job, play your role, and make sure you're doing what you're supposed to do and everything you're trying to do to win. And then eventually you're going to be able to swing this momentum and start, closing these games out like we got used to them seeing over the last few years, as opposed to what they're doing now and giving up these leads again, like the Capitals of old.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think that we've now talked about the upcoming schedule and the games that we had, and we even stretched it out to be a 40-minute conversation with just a couple of games.
I told you, Robbie. I told you.
I know. It's always going to be like that. But, we love our Capitals. We really appreciate everyone for tuning in. I'll definitely do a simple cut of this and just chop up the clip and pop it up. I'm probably not going to do any fancy stats for this week. But, Anna, I know that you're recording tomorrow. So later this week, if people click on, go sportsothp.com, click the podcast partners button, click the Power Play Point podcast, and they'll get that show. I'm sure it'll come out probably Wednesday or Thursday. I know Gil will have a little extra time to edit because it'll be a bit of a time until the next game.
Right.
They don't reschedule something. Anything else? Any final statements before we let you go?
No.
Did you like the Super Bowl? Just real quick.
No.
No, you did. Okay.
You know
a lot of people felt that way. Were you for Kansas City?
I've been a Tom Brady supporter for when he was in the Bay Area prior, like when all this was kind of happening, like he was a huge story, like this kid's gonna become something, and forever ago.
Right.
And he was a Niners fan, and I appreciated that, and I followed his career with the Patriots. But I really like Patrick Mahomes. I like Andy Reid, and so I was just hoping for a closer game.
Yeah.
And
I think a lot of people were.
Yeah. So I think Tom Brady GOAT deserves it. I have no ill will towards him. Patrick Mahomes isn't going anywhere. They're gonna kick ass again. But yeah, I was disappointed that it wasn't closer, and I don't know, there was like maybe one or two commercials I chuckled at and just wasn't the same. And I was kind of hoping with 2020 being as crazy as it was, they really would have put something out there to make people laugh and smile and kind of feel good and whatever. And I kind of feel like that fell flat.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to jump onto the Wizards talk, but we appreciate your time, and we'll talk to you next week.
Absolutely. Take care, guys. I'll see you later.
All right, Anna, take it easy. Appreciate it as always.
All right, Carol, it's 83 to 73. Wizards are actually up right now, so I'm going to bring my team back in. We've got DC's People's Champ on first. How are you doing, Champ?
I'm well, Robbie. I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing okay. And we got Tim on, and we got how are you doing today, Tim?
Oh, I'm doing great. Just happy to talk about the Wizards a little bit. Hopefully maybe the Super Bowl a little bit too.
I love Arun. Always got the fun backgrounds. How are you doing today, Arun?
Not bad. The Super Bowl is kind of a dud for me, but otherwise it's still football and gonna miss it for the next 6 months.
Yeah, for sure. All right, I'm gonna screen share real quickly. Hold on, let me.
Welcome back, Brian.
Okay, something. Hold on 1 second. Yeah, welcome back, Brian. Right. Make a co-host.
Thank you.
For some reason, I screwed this up. Oh, I think I fixed it up. All right, there we go. I made the wrong computer the host. All right, so we got the Wizards schedule here. So we got a live game, 83-76, as you can see on this screen. I'm gonna get Arun. Give me your quick take on how tonight's game's been going so far.
It's going similar to the last game where the Wizards were actually up without Russell Westbrook. Otto Porter's not playing in this one. The Wizards are 2-7 since they traded Otto Porter to the Bulls. Hopefully the Wizards can actually beat the Bulls, who haven't been actually a very good team since that trade.
They're 2-7 versus the Bulls, or
since that trade.
Interesting. Yeah. So, all right, but the Wizards have, it's been an up and down game from what I've seen. The Wizards took an early lead. Chicago came back. They seem to have built themselves a third quarter lead. Champ, any other thoughts on this one before we go back in time a little bit?
Two things. One, it's funny how you can have a lead when you do a little something small, like, I don't know, play defense. And number two, it was good in the first half to finally see Davis Bertans make threes. So that's two of the keys to the reason why this team currently holds on to a 7-point lead right now.
Right, and Bertans actually started this game, which he had not been doing. It was his first start of the season. Yeah, so Rui just was that an offensive foul? Hold on, it was a
I think he took the charge.
I'm trying to.
Yeah, he took the charge. He took the charge. Rui celebrating. He took the charge.
Yeah, you gotta wait and guess. Yeah. So okay, and it's hard to tell if he's excited or upset. So, but that was a good charge. All right. So, but it's been a good game. So we're limited on time, because I know we've got a lot of football talk, and if any of you guys want to come back after Duchesne does his segment at 10:15 and continue football talk, you are welcome to. But we're gonna try to run through last week's games really fast. I'm gonna give each one of you guys a game to break down. I'm going to just quickly just talk about the scoring and the overall, and then each of you can pick a game you want to talk about. So the first one was the Trailblazers. I mean, from the get-go, Portland came out and scored 40 points. Then the Wizards actually scored 40 in the second quarter, but they still allowed 35, so it wasn't enough of digging into that lead. Trailblazers scored 31 in the third. The Wizards kind of came back a little bit in the fourth, but by that point, it was just a rough game. It was just a bad game just overall, I thought, for the Wizards. Some of their leading scorers were Rui Hachimura and Bradley Beal. Bradley had 37, Rui had 24, Jenny had 13. And it wasn't necessarily a scoring problem. It was just the fact that they allowed so many points, which we've talked about all season. I mean, just look at how many scorers were in double digits, including Damian Lillard, put up a lot of points, Gary Trent Jr., Carmelo Anthony. I mean, that's terrible to have three scorers over 20 points and then three additional, scorers over 14 points. It's going to be hard to beat any team with that. And then the next game was against the Heat. And I thought that the Wizards played really well. For once, they played defense. They held a team to only 100 points. Bradley scored 32. We had a bunch of players in double digits, and they were able to hold the Heat basically to one hero, in Tyler Hero, and the rest they were able to kind of hold at bay. Which, unfortunately, if we now go to the next game a couple nights later, they also played the Heat once more, and the Heat clearly wanted revenge. And from the beginning, they were way outscored. So I thought that, I don't know. It sucks, because whenever Russell Westbrook seems to play, we lose. Whenever he doesn't seem to play, we seem to have a chance to win. He's not playing tonight, by the way, and we seem to be doing pretty well. And there's all these arguments in Wizards forums on whether or not he makes the team better or worse. I mean, the record would say that he makes them worse, but obviously he's an MVP, so he should. So it just seems to play defense around him more, or they seem to play better defense when he's not on the court. So that's a little bit frustrating. So that was a pretty bad loss. And then the last one was against the Hornets, which I also thought wasn't a great loss, especially because some of these teams aren't that good. I mean, the Hornets are obviously better than the Wizards, but they're not an amazing team. The Wizards started off just down only 3 points after the first quarter, but in the second quarter, the Hornets outscored them by 14. Then they outscored them by 12 in the third. Then in the fourth, in garbage time, the Wizards kind of made a little bit of a game of it. They were able to get 97 points, but by that point, the Hornets had scored 119. And unfortunately, I guess Bradley Beal's streak ended in the previous game. Is that right? Yeah. That was 25-point game, which he had broken Michael Jordan's record for most consecutive games with 25 points or more. But obviously, we talked about it in hockey. Goalies have this problem where you could be a hot goalie for a long time, but you're not going to be a hot goalie forever. So there's going to be a bad shooting night. But Bradley Beal showed that was an anomaly, being able to bounce back and score 31 points in this game, even without the win. So I'm going to go around the horn real fast and get your thoughts. Each person can pick a game. I'm going to start off with Tim. Tim, what game do you want to talk about?
I'll talk about the first loss to Portland because I know the Trailblazers pretty well, and I watched most of this game. And this game really highlighted the Wizards. One of their biggest problems this year, which is how bad they start, just how bad they play in the third quarter. And you can see they got absolutely crushed in the first quarter by Portland and let up 40 points. And really just put themselves behind the 8 ball and never really recovered, like you said. But this was a case of really bad perimeter defense. They let up a ton of threes. When Portland hits double-digit threes, they pretty much always win. They have an incredible record when they hit 10 or more threes. And players like Covington and Trent Jr. just destroyed us. Bertans looked really bad on defense in this game. The Wizards just were not able to stop Portland at all. They put up a little bit of a run in the second and showed some fight, but Wizards never really challenged in this game at all, and it was really disappointing because you can see they shot the ball really well. 40% from 3, 55 from the field. Usually that's going to do it, but if you don't play defense and you get killed in the first quarter, you can't really recover.
Yeah.
Another crushing loss.
Speaking of defense, so the Wizards are allowing a fair amount of points, and they're going a little bit cold here. So 11 minutes left in the fourth quarter. They're driving right now, and they miss that short basket. It's 83-80 right now. Washington's still up, but if he hits this three, which they luckily missed, it would have tied the game. So the rebound to the Wizards. We'll keep on an eye on that live game as well as talking about these games. I'm going to go next to DC's People's Champ, and I think he wants to talk about the Charlotte game. And why don't you talk about it?
Right. So, the Charlotte game was another example of why I said on last week's show when we talked about the Nets and Wizards game, how I said our defense is trash, but Brooklyn's defense is even more trash. And this was another situation where, once again, our defense was trash. You started Denny in the starting lineup along with Alex Len. They both started in the front court and were ineffective, and you didn't see them again for the rest of the game. They were done before the first quarter was done. Bradley Beal was able to get another 30-point game, which makes his 130th point game of his career. That actually puts him third behind his fellow 2012 draft classmates, Anthony Davis and Damian Lillard, in terms of the most 30-point games in their careers. So there you go. But again, it's in a loss. And then Russell Westbrook came very, very close to a triple-double, which would have been his sixth. But he didn't happen. And Beal making a recovery after a poor shooting performance against Miami. But you can make all the baskets you want, but if you can't stop somebody, you're not going to win a lot of games. And that's what happened with Charlotte. It was mostly just a mellow ball lighting it up and just them making threes and things like that. You can't allow that kind of thing and think you're going to win basketball, period.
Right. All right, Brian, the outsider's perspective. I'm going to give you dealer's choice, and you can talk about any of the games that have already happened if you'd like as well. You don't have to talk about a different one. But which game do you want to talk about?
I'll talk about the 122 to 95 loss against the Heat. I didn't see a whole lot of it, but just looking at the box score, the Wizards never really had a chance in this game. And I mean, I guess it's kind of be expected in back-to-back situations this year in the NBA. There's been a lot of that where teams have lost the first game but come back to win the second one. I guess the surprising thing is something you touched on a little bit earlier, Robbie, that Russell Westbrook actually did play in this game, not the first game against the Heat, and yet the Wizards still struggled in this one. They got absolutely crushed, honestly, in this game. It wasn't even close. Bradley Beal was really bad. I'm looking at it now, he started 0 for 13, and you talked about his streak coming to an end. That's really disappointing, obviously. Especially in such a blowout loss. But Miami pretty much beat the Wizards with real team effort, which is something that they were really good at last year, something they kind of struggled with a bit this year so far. But they've had a lot of injuries, so we'll see if maybe the Heat can put it together. But yeah, this was not a very good loss for the Wizards. They got absolutely crushed.
So I'll ask you from an outsider's perspective, and I'll get the rest of the team's thought on this as well. Do you think the team is better or worse with Westbrook? I mean, I know that the game's wins and losses, but I know having an MVP caliber player on your team, what is your thoughts, and how does this make any sense whatsoever?
Yeah, it's really tough to say, isn't it? Like, it's really tough to tell because they have some nights, where Westbrook, like the game against the Nets, Westbrook put up, 37 points, and they won that game. But then you have, a performance like the other night against Miami where they go out and win again without Westbrook. It's really tough to tell. I think this trade is going to be polarizing for Wizards fans for a really long time. And it doesn't help that John Wall's playing really well now in Houston for the Rockets. So I think this trade's going to be polarizing for a long time for Wizards fans, and it's really tough to tell. I honestly don't have a definitive answer.
Do you think that if John Wall was put back into this team, that they would have done better than what we're seeing with Westbrook, or do you think that it's just team defense and it doesn't matter who you put at a point guard?
I don't know, honestly. John Wall's having a great season. You don't know, the type of environment, maybe it would have been different. Maybe he really just needed a change of scenery from DC. Maybe this trade was for the best that they part ways. It's tough to say, honestly. I think they might honestly have more wins just because John Wall seems really determined coming back from his injury. He seems like he's doing really well, and it's good for him. But I think the Wizards might have more wins if they did have Wall.
Yeah, Tim, I'm going to ask you that same question, and I'm going to let Jenny out. But do you think the team is better or worse with Westbrook in the lineup?
I think today they're worse, but I don't think he's fully healthy. And he even said that after the Nets win. And that Nets win also gave me hope that when he is healthy and he starts to gel with the team and the team gels around him, that they will be better with him. And I've seen him do a lot of good things. Not related to shooting, because he's been so inefficient shooting on offense. But yeah, I mean, right now I think if you plug Wall in, the Wizards would be better. A few more wins. I don't think it would fix anything necessarily, but I don't think we're gonna know the real answer until late this year or even next year, when he's really back, fully healthy.
Yeah, I'm going to let Champ weigh in on the debate real quick, and then I'm going to get Arun's thoughts, and then I get Arun's pick of which game he wants to break down.
I have to agree with Double B right here. I can't really tell if it were worse or better with Russell Westbrook. We can't tell. I mean, the results show that we have games where we play well and win, and he's in the lineup. We have games where he's not in the lineup. We play like trash and we lose. It's kind of hard to say. So I gotta agree with the consensus of the round table here. Well, most of the consensus of the round table that, I mean, this is one of those trades that we really can't judge whether it's working or not based on what's going on with this season, especially with how unique the season is with all the COVID.
Did I just lose Champ, or did everyone?
I can't hear him.
Yeah, I lost.
Champ, we lost you for a second.
You take away those 7 games, you never know what could happen. You never know if Russell Westbrook can make a difference in those 7 games, or maybe 5 or 4 or 5 of those 7 games, and maybe we have a better record or having a different conversation here.
Yeah, for sure. All right.
I just want to say, like, I feel bad because I thought the Russell Westbrook trade was like an absolute slam dunk home run for the Wizards. Like, I thought this would make them a way better team, and now I don't even have a definitive answer. It's crazy on whether he makes them a better team or not.
I know it's funny how a lot of our opinions are changing as the season goes on. Arun, what's your take on the debate?
Yeah, this version of Westbrook definitely makes the Wizards worse. Unfortunately, he isn't healthy. I agree with Tim, but he's still jacking up really bad shots early in the shot clock. He does give effort defensively, but it isn't there. We also have to put into the fact that they're like 2-11 with Westbrook, and all those wins are against the net. So he does show up against Kevin Durant. John Wall with the Rockets, he's like 9-4, 9-5, or something like that. And the Wizards did give up a first-round pick. The plus side is that this is the perfect year to tank because you get a good draft pick. But on the downside, Bradley Beal might want out if the Wizards don't continue to show that they're going to be competitive. I think it actually has more to do with Bertan being pretty bad this year. He showed up also out of shape, but then can't put it all on Westbrook, and also Scott Brooks' rotations haven't made much sense. But overall, I think the team has been worse with Westbrook, but there's a caveat that maybe he's going to be healthier down the stretch.
Yeah, and so I know the score says 91-84 on the screen, but it's actually 93-84 because Bradley Beal just knocked down 2 free throws. So that's that. All right, Arun, real quickly, what game did you want to break down before we talk about the week ahead?
Yeah, I'll break down the win. Overall, the Wizards, they played pretty well defensively, or Miami just missed a lot of shots in that one. Miami did start up with 20 points in the first 4 minutes of the game, and they only scored 80 points for the rest of the game. Pretty incredible. Denny actually showed up in this game. I thought he was playing pretty well. He was shooting 48% from 3 after this game. He hasn't hit a 3 since this game. Maybe that's why he got benched, although I think he still ride it out a little bit. But Scott Brooks was complaining that certain players were not taking things seriously or watching game film. And he said players were playing too many video games. So that might be Alex Len and Denny, who didn't play in the second half of that game. So I don't know, Scott Brooks, if that's him about to get fired, or that's the way of motivating the team, or maybe he just doesn't really like the video game.
But Bradley Beal just went down hard with this foul. So he's driving into the hoop, and he just gets clobbered. And it looks like he may have gotten hit in the nether region. So he went down in a heap of pain. Sort of collapsed, or maybe it was his midsection. Maybe it was the wind knocked out of him. It seems like he's holding his abdominal muscles right now. Right now, the Wizards are up 93-86 with 6:42 left in this. So let's take a look at the week ahead real fast. I want to get a lot into this segment. We've got just about 10 minutes left of it. Upcoming schedule with the homestand. We play Toronto on Wednesday. We play the Knicks. I know that somebody on this panel probably wants to break that game down.
Yes, he does.
On Friday at 7. The Toronto game was off at 7 on Wednesday. And then on Sunday, we play Boston. It's a 1 o'clock game. Let's see. Is it? I don't even know what. I guess we have no national TV games. I was like, oh, maybe that's a national TV game. But then I realized that I don't think the Wizards have any national TV games in the first half of the season. And anyway, so let's go around. I'm going to let Arun, you have the Raptors game to start off.
Yeah, this is the team the Wizards played, the last team they played in the playoffs, but they were lost 4-2. Toronto is typically on the Wizards in the regular season. I think me and Tim went to a game where the Wizards didn't pull out a win without John Wall, but overall, Raptors had a slow start to the season. They're playing much better. I think the Raptors should beat the Wizards.
Yeah, that makes sense. They've been playing much better basketball, at least than the Wizards have this season, for sure. Okay, Brian, I'm going to give you the next one since it's your beloved Knicks. The Knicks are doing really well this season, and this is going to be a tough game on Friday at 7. What are some of your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, the Knicks are doing well by Knicks standards. I mean, they're usually pretty terrible, but Tom Thibodeau seems to have us playing in the things heading in the right direction. We have one of, if not the best defensive teams in the whole league, and all that goes to Tom Thibodeau. Just traded for Derrick Rose yesterday. That became official. His first game with the Knicks is going to be tomorrow against the Heat. So we'll see how that goes. I'm excited for that. I'm hoping he doesn't take minutes away from Emmanuel Quickly, who's been a great rookie for us. Really nice player for the Knicks. And yeah, I'm pretty guys, honestly, I hate to admit it, but I'm pretty confident about the Knicks going into this game. No offense to the Wizards. I think the Knicks are going to win this game. And, the Knicks, the one thing I'll say about this team is they tend to beat teams that they should. And personally, I think they should beat the Wizards. I think the Knicks are going to win this game.
Makes sense. All right, I'm going to give I'll give Tim the Celtics game, and then I'll give Ken the ability to pick his own game. Tim, what are your thoughts on playing Boston Sunday at 1 o'clock?
Obviously, the Wizards will be big underdogs, and the Celtics are a loaded team with a lot more talent, but I know they've struggled earlier this season, and the Wizards sometimes play up the competition at home. So I think the Wizards do have a chance in this game, but I do pick the Celtics to win here. They just have too many superstars. Jaylen Brown's great, a lot of scoring talent, and I don't think the Wizards will defend well because generally they played terrible defense this year. So probably a loss, but I think the Wizards could pull out an upset here.
I just want to go over the Eastern Conference standings, and then I'll let Champ pick a game. Philadelphia right now at 17-7 is leading the Eastern Conference, followed by Milwaukee, Brooklyn, and Boston's in 4th. And then the Pacers, Atlanta, Charlotte, and the New York Knicks sort of round out the top 8. And then Toronto's right on the other side of that. So you're playing two teams that are right now kind of fighting for that 8th spot, and you're playing the 4th seed team. And then Chicago is at 11, Miami 12, Orlando 13, Washington is 14, and Detroit is 15. So we're no longer the worst team in the Eastern Conference. Taking a look at our upcoming schedule, Champ, which game do you want to break down?
I want to talk about the Rockets game. Reason why is because this will be the first game back for good old John Wall since the trade to Houston. So you have to understand the gravity of emotions.
It's Raptors.
No, Houston. I'm talking about Houston on Monday.
Oh, okay, that's fair. All right,
yeah,
that is
on Monday.
Okay.
Yeah, that's that one right there. Like I said, the gravity of emotions that are going to be in that game with Wall coming back to DC after being traded away from here. He already got his comeuppance on them in Houston. Now he has a chance to do it in the place he called home for basically his entire career to this point. So you got to understand that with this team playing the way that they are, now right now they're up, but the way this team has been playing recently, especially against teams who are not that bad, I have a lot of reservations that this one's going to be a loss, and this is going to be a bad loss because John Wall is looking for get back. He's already made it known. He's looking for get back. He already got get back in Houston. He wants to get back in DC. This, I feel, is going to be a loss for Houston. I would love to be wrong on this, but I feel like John Wall is going to come into Capital One Arena, and he is going to tear this team apart.
So you think it's going to be a loss for us against – okay. And
yes.
I forgot that we kind of needed to preview that game because next week we'll be on at our normal time at 9 o'clock and probably about 9:40, just like we are today. So by that point, the game's probably over. So we're probably doing a post game or talking about the final few minutes of the fourth quarter at the very top of that. So yeah, there's 4 games, I guess, that we can give. So I'm going to let everybody give their prediction. I'm going to start off with Tim. Tim, how do you think we do if we're going to include the Rockets that we'll be talking about next week during the show? What are your thoughts?
I'm gonna say 1-3. I've picked one win most weeks, and usually that's about right. For the one, I'm gonna go ahead and say we're gonna beat the Raptors. Why not?
All right, Brian, what are your thinking on the record for the week?
Yeah, sorry, I don't see the Wizards winning any of these games. I agree with Ken. John Wall's going to be out for blood in that game. His first game back in DC. Unfortunately, I think the Wizards are going to lose all these games.
All right, and Arun, what are your thoughts?
With Christian Wood out and plus no Westbrook probably in second back-to-back game, I think the Wizards beat the Rockets, and I think they're going to beat the Bulls. So does that count for this week? I'm not sure. So either 1-3 or 2-3. I don't know.
We're not going to count the Bulls in this prediction because we already know where this. Well, but anyway. But let's just look at the other 4 games. So of the other 4 games, you think they're going to win one game or none?
Just one game.
1 game.
1-3.
All right, and Ken, what are your thoughts?
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say they're going to go 1-3. And I feel like, and I don't know why, but somehow I end up being right with these kind of things. I feel like they beat the Celtics. I don't know why I feel this way, but I feel like they beat the Celtics. That'll be the only win they get this week. So, yeah, I'm going 1-3.
Got it. And most of us think that they should win this game. They're up 6 with 3:43 left, but who knows? Definitely Chicago's making quite a game of it, and a 3-point attempt was just missed. So the Wizards have the ball, 3:30 left. We got about 5 minutes left in this thing. They'll probably stay with this feed just until the end of this game. But we're going to get Dujanet on the line in a second. I'll get each one of you guys to let me know, do you want to stay on the line and talk after, or do you want me to let you go after this segment? And if you do want me to let you go, just your quick thoughts on the Super Bowl. So, Tim, I'll start with you. Do you want to stay on the line, or do you want to just give your quick thoughts?
I'll give my quick thoughts. I just have an early work day tomorrow, but
totally fine.
Yeah. I like the time show. I like a lot of the commercials. The game was definitely underwhelming. I'm not upset with Tampa winning. I mean, I don't really care, to be honest, about who wins between those two teams. But you just got to give it up for Tom Brady and for Gronk still being this good. And hopefully next year we get a better Super Bowl and we get a couple Wizards wins this week. But it's definitely not the worst Super Bowl ever. So could be worse, right?
Yeah, a lot of people were making it out to be the worst Super Bowl ever, which I definitely don't think it was. So I'm gonna ask Brian, are you gonna stay on for the Super Bowl segment towards the end, or are you? Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, I'll stay on for a little bit. Yeah.
All right, and Arun, what are your thoughts? Are you gonna stay on, or do you want to?
I'll stay on for the next segment.
Okay, that sounds good. And Ken, are you gonna stay on as well?
Of course.
Okay, sounds good. So we'll probably end up having Dujanet give his take first, and then we'll probably bring you guys back. Let me end this part of the screen share now, and then we may end up just bringing 2 of you guys on camera, and then 1 of you guys on audio for that segment as well. 2:34 left in this Wizards game. The Wizards are now only up by 2, 99-97, and Chicago just got the rebound. So there's about 2:20 left in this. Carol, do you want to? I see that Dujanet is not on quite yet. So here he is. He just joined. So perfect. So while Dujanet is getting on, it's still 2 minutes left. They missed that shot. Bulls are on a 6-0 run in the last 2 minutes. The Wizards have the ball. They're up 2 with 2 minutes left in this game. So a foul on Chicago will extend it. Will I think make Washington go to the free throw line, or unless maybe it's the first. No, yeah, they will. So Bradley Beal will go to the line and shoot 2 Again, 99, 97, 157 left. Carol, do you want to bring Dugenay on and then I can just give a final score, or do you want to stick with this?
Yeah, go ahead and bring Dugenay on. I know his time is limited, and
Perfect.
I got a long work day tomorrow myself.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, so we'll bring in Dugenay, and then I will give you a final score when we got one. And then if you need to go, I'm also fine talking a little bit of football with the guys after as well. So it's up to you.
All right, that's a bet. That's a bet. Yeah, it was an interesting Super Bowl. We all talked about Tampa Bay dominating this game. I didn't get a chance to get a good look at it. I was watching on my phone when I was doing the other show and a smaller TV. But the one constant that I saw was Todd Bowles getting pressure on Patrick Mahomes every play. It's like he sent somebody to try to disrupt their timing. And we asked how would they be able to stop that explosive offense. And I think Todd Bowles had a great answer. And we always say defense wins championships. You mentioned earlier, Robbie, Tom Brady's going to get all the credit. But I feel the MVP of this game was Todd Bowles and his defensive play calling. Dugenay, my brother, how are you doing tonight, and what are your thoughts on this Super Bowl?
I'm doing good, man, and much of the same. It's just defense overwhelmed. I felt like Kansas City, though, wasn't necessarily prepared. I thought they continued to beat their heads against the wall, trying to do some of the same things that just weren't working. You look at some of the things that were constant with Todd Bowles' defense, where the safeties were deep. So if the safeties are deep, you have to do something in order to get them to bite, to suck up a little bit, to get the linebackers to suck up, because you already had the aggressive play of the linebackers. They were making plays, getting sacks, stopping the run, but they didn't utilize the tight ends very well. I felt like they didn't utilize the speed of Tyreek Hill and those wide receivers very well in the short game and slant game. Just dinking and dunking, picking them apart, causing those guys to step up just a little bit, and then you can start hitting them over the top. Maybe you needed to go a little no huddle, but I felt like Kansas City wasn't prepared. They were overwhelmed and never really changed their style of what they were trying to do until it was too little too late. And then by that time, it was pretty much in the hands of the Tampa Bay defense. But Tampa Bay did what they needed to do and what they have been doing defensively, and that's getting on top of people early, allowing Tom Brady to go in and get a couple scores. And I think we also understand that Kansas City, you've seen it when they have had to play from behind, they're not very good at it. Their defense is not very good at it either when they get behind. And it showed. In the second half, they didn't have to do anything but run the football, and they basically ran the same play over and over again. Basically run it up the right side. If it's not there, bounce it outside and hope the corner can't make the tackle or doesn't make a solid tackle. And I don't care who you got out there, Fournette or Jones. Those guys. If I'm a corner, I don't want to have to tackle them every time. So. It was a good game. It was a good strategy. Bruce Arians deserves it. Tom Brady deserves it. And that whole entire team, they worked their butts off. And they came out and did what they had to do and overwhelmed that Kansas City Chiefs offense and did a very good job of doing so.
Real quickly, I have a question to ask Dugenay, and then I'll let Carol ask a question too. But Dugenay, we talked last week. I was the only one that picked Tampa because I believed in their defense last week. And I know a lot of people thought I was crazy about it, and a lot of people thought that them not coming in early. I know that you had mentioned that they were going to come in earlier, and then Brian came in a little later and said they're actually not coming in. And I said that could actually be a difference. I know it's only a 1 hour time difference, and Carol said going from cold to hot shouldn't matter. But do you think usually you have 2 weeks down at the Super Bowl, or at least a week? Do you think that ultimately that had any effect on Kansas City's game, or do you think it was just really good defense by Tampa Bay and it wouldn't have mattered when they got there?
I don't know if it would matter when they got there. Of course, I'm sure they would like to be more comfortable, but then there's that additive where you can get too comfortable and you get relaxed and you're not really, you really kind of let the juices that are flowing initially kind of subside, and you have to get yourself hyped up for the game. And it really shows. We've seen that before. We've seen those 2 weeks of kick back, relaxed. Everybody's, chilling. And it's usually one team that's focused and one team that gets that happy to be here syndrome. And you see it within the first half, the first quarter, really. And I thought both teams, played tough in the first quarter. Both defenses were pretty solid. So I don't think that made a difference at all. I just think lack of adjustments really hurt them big time. And maybe some of the extracurricular activity with, the accident with the young child being involved. Maybe their minds weren't 100% focused on what needed to be done. But I just think, Tampa just eventually just took over the game because the first half, both defenses were doing a pretty good job, containing the offenses.
I totally agree. The first half was, like a chess match. They're trying to figure out, where the weakness or where they could take advantage of. And it just got to a point where Tampa's defense just was dictating the pace at every level. It's like they didn't have any chance to get anything going in their offense. And like you said, the lack of adjustments of, going to the slant game or the quick passing game to try to get them away from that, sending that pressure all the time. And, like I said, too little, too late. But it was definitely an interesting Super Bowl. No one expected, well, like I said, I didn't expect it to be a 31-9 to see Kansas City's offense basically shut down and held to 3 field goals. But that's why I said you got to give a lot of props to Todd Bowles for what he did, calling the game and, making it uncomfortable for them. With the child, there was an accident. That definitely could have played, a role in their preparation, thought process, and, getting outplayed like they did. But, you never know. That's the funny thing about sports. You can do so much, but when real life hits it, it's hard to focus and, sometimes focus on what you're supposed to do and how you're supposed to do it. So it was just, to me, it was, I haven't, well, like I said, I'm going to go back and watch the whole thing on the big screen and see some of these plays and calls that they were missed. Lucian, I'll ask you, did you see any glaring referee errors in this game? I've heard it from, both sides. Some said it was officiated okay, and some said it was horrible.
No, I'm not gonna say it was officiated okay. I'll say this: a lot of the holds and PI calls were very one-sided. I mean, there wasn't anything egregious that was going on that wasn't happening on the other side of the ball defensively. I've even heard commentators saying they were grabbing jerseys. I mean, please show me where the jerseys were being grabbed. Both the defender and the wide receiver were handsy. It's the Super Bowl. It really didn't impede. Some of them did not impede the individual from getting the ball because the ball was not catchable. So I don't agree with a lot of those holds and PIs that happened. With that said, though, and I tweeted this out in the second half, it is what it is. And we've talked about this ad nauseum, Carol, when we're talking about Washington fans. It is what it is. Now it's time you got to make an adjustment and figure out what not to do. You understand what they're calling, so don't do it. You're going to have to make an adjustment, whether it's coaching, whether it's the players on the field. The adjustments have to be made. I thought one thing that really took them over the top is that they were starting to bicker with each other about the way the game was being called. Okay, yeah, some of it was unfair. It gave Tampa second chance opportunities, but then look on the other side of the ball. When they had opportunities, their offense did absolutely zero, zilch, nada. So either way, you can say what you want, but they didn't put enough points on the board when they had the opportunities. And when they got inside the red zone, they either turned it over or they severely choked. So, it is what it is. I don't know, but no, I don't agree with a lot of the calls. But I mean, that's been this season. I mean, you see some of the people, the head ref that's there. How did he get there? He was a part of a lot of miscues and awful calls. A lot of people on that staff were a lot better than him, but definitely I didn't see why he should be there. So, I mean, it is what it is, and that's been the NFL. That's been the NFL this year, and players got to make adjustments, and they absolutely did not make adjustments when necessary, and it kept getting called. That's the only thing I can say is they were consistent in calling the wrong thing. So when they're going to call it, what are you going to do about it? The only thing you can do is make an adjustment, even when it's not correct. That's how they're calling it. You have to live with it. So I just thought they got too much in their feelings, and that played a part. But other than that, man, Tampa just abused them. They really did abuse them, and they took advantage of it. The funny thing is Tom just thought he just took it right to the Honey Badger. I mean, after the that was the worst thing he could have done was mouth off to Tom. And I think people have seen that meme where he's kind of on the sideline, he's got his head down like he's losing, and he's not losing. That's the worst. No one wants to see Tom do that, because once Tom comes off the bench, after doing that, he usually annihilates his opponent, and that's exactly what he did.
Real quickly, I want to talk about the turning point in this game, because for me, that last drive at the end of the first half was the difference maker. I want to ask you, Dujanet. I know hindsight is 2020, right? So, calling that timeout by Andy Reid to try to get the ball back when you have the opportunity to get the ball first in the second half. And I understand that you think you can get now 2 possessions here. Do you think that was the right call? Where, I mean, that just gave them so much energy and ultimately led to that third touchdown. What are your thoughts on that? And then obviously there was a lot of pass interference afterwards to get them down the field.
Yeah, I didn't like that. I didn't like that at all. I mean, it was already a rough first half, and really it could have been worse for them. They got away with a few things and was able to stifle them, at times when they really could have been scores. They had some, opportune miscues, and then he goes and calls a timeout, and it basically resurrected them at that point. And it really was. It was the dagger, because they really hadn't done anything offensively. So I agree with you, Robbie, that was not a good call. I don't even know what he was thinking. If they wanted to, stop the clock, then let them stop the clock. But you're getting the ball back in the second half. It really doesn't matter. Just don't let them score, and don't give them enough time to let them score.
Yeah, because if they score on the first drive of the second half and the Patriots don't march down the field there, it's a 13-14 game. It's very different than a 21-6 game. And I think, ultimately, for me, that was the turning point in the game. I don't know if, Carol, if you have any thoughts on that.
I mean, that definitely was a pivotal play. We saw the week before, a team calling a timeout or getting an extra play and scoring right before the half for like 2 seconds on it or whatever. So that definitely was a big momentum swing, and it did change the whole complexion of the game after that, because, like you said, it's a big difference from going down, what they 21-6 as in the 14-13. And at that point, Tampa knew that they had to throw the ball, so then they just started pinning their ears back even more, and then it just get out of hand after that.
Yeah, for sure. I want to just give a quick scoring update. The Wizards were able to win. They basically didn't have any field goals over the last 5 minutes, but somehow, or barely any, but they somehow were able to find a way to gut out a victory. They probably should have lost that game. There was a questionable no call and a foul down low at the very, very end there, but they were able to win this game 105-101. I'll get the guys' takes afterwards on that crazy finish, but I just wanted to give a quick scoring update. But Carol, I'll let you ask Dujanet another question. I know that Dujanet's time is short, so I want to be wary of that.
Oh, yeah, we just going to, I mean, everybody's seen the game. Everybody knows and had their reaction. So, we just giving our quick recap. Based on what we saw from this Tampa Bay team, we know Tom has another year on his contract. He's talking about playing till he's 45. And you think he's going to come back, and they think that this team will be able to repeat and get Tom his 8th ring?
No, he said he was coming back in the post game. He said he was coming back. They're going to run it back. I think they can, but then I look at teams. I'll look at Washington, who played them the toughest. in this stretch. So they can be had. The Saints had them a few times this year. But it is, again, we say it all the time, man. You can't bet against Tom. Um, I'm happy for the guy. I know people are tired of seeing the guy, but this is more for him than anything else in the sense that now Belichick looks like an idiot, and maybe it ain't him. Maybe he isn't as great as people touted him to be, because people tried to paint Tommy as a system quarterback, and think about the adversity that this man faced to get to this point and to win a Super Bowl. In a COVID season, he had to learn a whole new offense. He had to come and learn a whole new set of wide receivers, tight ends, offensive linemen. It really speaks to the work that he puts in to get results. It's not just about coaching. And to be honest with you, we know what type of coach Bruce Arians is. I think Byron Leftwich deserves a lot of credit. He's coached Ben Roethlisberger, another, quarterback that people feel is upper echelon quarterback. And we see what Ben's been like without him. But I also think that Tom has taught these guys a little something as well. It's a good match, and you saw the team really just pick up and really get that Brady attitude. And I think they can do it again. I really think they can do it again because a lot of their pieces can come back. If they add more pieces, it's definitely going to be tough. I mean, the South is not that good outside of the Saints, and who knows what the Saints are going to be like, because I don't feel like Drew should come back because his arm just isn't what it used to be. It's sad, but it is what it is. Father Time catches everyone. Right now, Tom is the only guy at his age that his arm still looks quite live. Even Peyton didn't look live at the end. And I know he had some neck issues, etc. But we know guys, even Brett arm didn't look too live toward the end. He still got it. He played 16 games, and I think he can at least go one more year. I think you have to look and see how he ends next year, whether it's back at the Super Bowl or not. But at this point, I say he could play until he's 45. The way he's taking care of himself, I think proves it as such. And he hasn't shown that he's slowing down yet. So I guess it's something to keep an eye on. But if asking that today, sure, that guy most definitely can come back. I think they would give him a contract extension if he plays well next year, even if they don't make it, if they get close. And I think he could play till he's 45.
Real quickly, Mike Evans came out today, and his coach did too, saying that he's willing to take a pay cut to try to keep the band together. So clearly, Brady's got them all believing that they could all just come back. And Gronkowski, even though he retired and took some time away, which is good because probably good for his body, he's only 31, right? So he could come back. Antonio Brown potentially could come back. It's just really interesting if they can keep the band together, which is rare in the NFL. But I think that they really want to win more than make money right now, which is really an impressive thing. One question I had for you, Dujanet, and I don't know systems enough to be able to tell this. Did they build, is the Tampa Bay system the same as it was before Tom got there, or did they try to take a lot of what the Patriots did and just replicate that here? Or is it really a very different system?
I think it's definitely different. There's a lot of things you see that they like to do. There's some things they know that Tom does very well. Those outside post to the sideline type throws, those are teardrop throws. He loves those. They have a couple things that they sprinkle in. Of course, every coach does that with their quarterback, knowing what they do well. But there's a lot of things that basically it's just the way Tampa runs the ship. And he's bought in. He's learned this offense, and he's done an excellent job of executing it. And I think you have to give Bruce Arians credit. It's something a lot of coaches should be doing. It's not really about your system. I mean, we've talked about it a lot on this show, Robbie, and that's it's not a lot about your system. It's about what your quarterback does well. If you can do that, and then you can kind of build off of those things that he does well, then you might see your quarterback get into a rhythm and be a better player because you're utilizing the things he does well, and then you're doing things that are, subsidiaries off of what he does well that can kind of expand his game a little bit. Obviously, we're talking about, a veteran and one of the best to play this game. But it doesn't matter who you got. If you do that, you give yourself an excellent chance to win. And one thing that's important for them, they have a lot of weapons that he can throw to, and those guys aren't necessarily guys that people think of as being, guys that are threats. But Godwin, Evans, I think what's the tight end's name? I can't think of his name now.
I'm calling him Baby Gronk, but I don't know what his actual name was.
Right.
Number 84, yeah, he was a problem.
84, yeah.
He's been a threat. They have combinations, and you look at those big backs in Fournette and Jones. That's a tough combo, man. That's tough to stop. They beat you up, throwing the football to the tight ends, and they wallop you, and then the running backs, they wallop you. And if you allow them to get into a rhythm, they wear you down, and Tom hits you with those big ones over the top, whether it's to Gronk, Evans, or AB, and they get the job done. Godwin has gotten in there and got some big ones, big streaks down the field as well. So I think they've done a little bit of everything to try to bring this together, but I don't think they've tried to emulate what they did in New England at all. I think this is a collaborative effort, and there's a few things sprinkled in, but this is pretty much Tampa's offense.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's Cameron Brate was his name.
Yeah, Cameron
There
Brate.
you
Yeah,
go. There you
Bruce
go.
Arians. His offense has always been, top notch. And like you said, Dujanay Byron Leftwich, he did an outstanding job calling plays. I was impressed seeing what he did, especially, against the Washington football team and through the rest of the playoffs. He, like you said, he coached to his strengths, and he also took shots and did what he had to do to keep the defense off balance and, to make the offense run with the way it needed to. And then once they got the lead, they just let the defense do the rest of it, and then it was over. So it's definitely a good combination with Arians and Bowles and what that team did, and them staying together. I think they can go on a run, but like I said, like we spoke about, the Washington football team played them the toughest, and I still feel like some of those non-calls and second chances that they gave them in that game allowed them to progress. So I would love to see them match up again next year and, see how things go. Hopefully the Washington football team don't make some of the same mistakes they did this year, but I think they can do it, but I still think they can be beat also. So, Dujanay, before we let you get out of here, I'm about to
I want to get Dujanay's take real quickly on Defensive Rookie of the Year and the Comeback Player of the Year. I know we talked about it at the top of the show, but Dujanay, I can't even remember the last time that the Washington football team had one of these end-of-year award winners, no less two of them, and both kind of ran away with it. What are your quick thoughts on that?
It speaks to what this team has been doing over the years. They've done an excellent job drafting. Their scout department has done an excellent job of getting guys in here and really evaluating talent. You see them down there at the Senior Bowl, and these are guys that I've been talking about, and they snagged these guys, the McLaurins, the guys that are just ballers. And it's not a surprise. Chase Young carries himself very well. He's a player that hasn't really been on this type of player that hasn't been on this football team in a long time, probably since the likes of the 92 team maybe, or Sean Taylor, a guy who works hard. He's really about football. He's about ball, and he wants to be the greatest, and he not only just wants it, but he shows it in his actions. So it's not a surprise that he got it. It's also, I felt like if it was anybody other than Alex Smith, somebody needed to have a test of their mental fortitude and whether they were sane or not. What he did was incredible, and I think it was well-deserved of that. When he ran out on that field and had to go play in that game, My stomach, heart, everything was in my feet. I was very nervous to see him out there. But when I saw, when I saw the big man on his back, he was carrying him. I was like, well, I guess that leg's gonna hold up just fine. And unfortunately for him, the fatigue is what's gonna be the issue. But no one's gonna question that guy's heart and ability, his knowledge of the game, his studying of the game. Because you have to adjust. You have to adjust when something like that happens. You're not the same guy at all. And I thought he did an excellent job of just adjusting his will to get back to that point when people like myself didn't think he was going to ever play again. Really didn't want to see him play because I'd rather him be with his kids and his wife. But that's what he wanted to do, and I'm very, very happy that he got got a chance to carry that dream, that goal that he had set through, and not only just carry it through, but he was a big, big piece in the reason why Washington had the record that they had and were in the positions they were in.
Yeah, they won the division.
Awesome.
That's so amazing to me. It's not like he just won a couple of games. Like he actually won the division for them, and that blows my mind. I mean, I think he deserved to get it even if he won 2 games, no less winning the division. So
absolutely,
and some incredible stuff. Well, DJ, we really appreciate your time as always. But do you have any final thoughts? Are you doing anything? Is your podcast back up yet? Is the move going okay? And let anyone know any final thoughts you have.
Move's good. We're working on that podcast thing. We're trying to work out the schedule here. I have some NHRA stuff coming up, some articles coming up as the season is upon us. It should be a month away from the season opener in Gainesville, Florida. So I'll be throwing some storylines out. I'll be throwing some articles out of drivers and teams to watch and some really good stories that are going to happen in 2021. It's a pretty awesome season, a lot of changes and a lot of new faces coming in, and it should be exciting. It kind of reminds me of the old days when it wasn't so much about the big teams as it was about the Davids of the world, the little guys who come in, have an opportunity with a smaller budget and want to come out and race a couple races and maybe upset some guys. So I'm really looking forward to this 2021 season, and hopefully they can complete it and not have to make too many changes along the way. But as we know, we're in the middle of a pandemic, so we have to be open and ready for change. But it should be a fun season, so I'll have some articles coming out with that as well.
Sounds good.
All right. Appreciate it as always, bro. I'll let you get back to handling your business, and we'll talk to you next time, man.
All right, brother. Thanks so much.
All right,
have a good one.
Have a good one. All right, Carol, do you want to stay on for this segment, or do you want to? I'm more than happy to do the final segment and let you get out. I know you've got a busy day tomorrow, so it's up to you.
I gotta drive to North Dinwiddie, Virginia, to deliver a car tomorrow.
I have no idea what that is, but it sounds far.
Yeah, it's 3 hours one way, and I have to leave at like 9:30 in the morning to deliver the vehicle, and then come right back. So
that sounds like Richmond.
It's past Richmond.
Oh, that's
it's going to be interesting, and it's my day off. But it's a car sold on my day off, so that's all that matters. Yeah, I'm gonna get out of here. Make sure you go check out the website sportsothp.com. Make sure you go check out At the Bar Radio on Sundays. I do that show along with Sports on the Hill Tonight. Sports OTHP Apparel. You're looking for a new car, used car, come holler at me down. Waldorf Honda 2450 Crane Highway. I'm too tired to go through anything else, man.
You did enough. They can follow you on Facebook, and you've got plenty of links and videos, and
it's all up
content,
there.
So it's all there.
Yeah, so I'm just about to get out of here. No video tonight. I'm just shutting the feed down. So y'all have a good rest of the show, and